All right. Okay. 3, 2. It's not very often that the best move correlates with the biggest move in NFL free agency, but that changed for Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. We got all of that and much more on today's episode of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, football fans, and welcome into another episode of Locked On NFL. We appreciate you very much for being here, making us your first listen of the day every day here on this wonderful Tuesday as NFL free agency is underway. We are your hosts today, Luke Braun at Luke Braun NFL on your favorite social media, myself, Ross Jackson at Ross Jackson Nola. We appreciate you very much for being here with us. On today's episode, we're going to get to our yike and our like, including exploring Justin Fields' completely dried up trade market all of a sudden. We're going to take a look at a trade that probably should have happened nearly a year and a half ago. That just happened today or on Monday. And we're going to kick everything off with, of course, looking at the big news. Kirk Cousins headed to the Atlanta Falcons. Why? It's a perfect fit for both sides. We appreciate you very much for being here and being an everydayer here on Locked On NFL as part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers are going to get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Yep, that's it. $200 if that bet wins. Going your way. Head over to FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Luke, you know Kirk Cousins. You've heard of this guy. He's headed over.
Familiar.
Yeah, he's headed over to the Atlanta Falcons. And while thinking about Kirk Cousins and his family navigating the streets of Atlanta, which is objectively hilarious, outside of that, the football fit is awesome.
So his wife has family there. So they actually do have a bit of a connection to the city, which I think was actually big for him.
Wait, do they have family in Atlanta or do they have family on like Alpharetta?
I have no idea. It's like the area. Places.
All right.
But that was big for him, but the biggest thing for him was commitment. And that's the thing the Vikings weren't going to do. The Falcons signed a 4-year deal, first 2 of it totally guaranteed, and a little bit of guarantees into the 3rd year. Vikings were never going to do that.
Yeah.
The sticking point, and you'll hear conflicting reports depending on who you're listening to. I choose to place my trust for this one, at least to the Star Tribune, which has been reporting pretty consistently for the last year that the Vikings weren't going to guarantee him beyond 2025. I believe that would be his age 38 season, and then we're going to guarantee him full years of 2025. That would have meant a 1-year deal with a 2nd year not guaranteed. With no, or maybe even no guarantees in that. And the Falcons outbid that. And I don't know if the Vikings were going to come up to that $45 million a year number either, even though of course that actual number might end up being a little bit fake depending on actual structure details that we don't have yet. But I don't think that the Vikings were close. I guess that's what my impression is. So the Falcons get Kirk Cousins, and I think they blew the Vikings out on this one. And the Vikings were very comfortable to say, we're not matching that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And hey, look, if you're going to put your trust in any newspaper out there, I mean, the Pulitzer Prize winners, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice there, Luke. I think for me, the reason why I love this move so much is because the Atlanta Falcons, one of the things that they've struggled to do, and obviously, like, you know, I don't cover the Atlanta Falcons, but I see them closely by covering another NFC South team. One of the things they've always struggled to do is utilize their playmakers. I mean, for the past 3 drafts, they've invested a top 10 selection in some offensive skill position. Bijan Robinson at running back, Kyle Pitts at tight end, Drake London, of course, at wide receiver, and haven't been able to actively, or let me say it differently, haven't been able to consistently elevate those playmakers. Now, some of that is Arthur Smith, right? So it was Arthur Smith, but a lot of that came down to the quarterback position too. It happens when you have a potential Hall of Fame quarterback that leaves, right? Or in this case, that they traded away to the Indianapolis Colts. But there's going to be a hangover there. We see it all the time, unless you're the Green Bay Packers. But I just think that, like, this guy, Kirk Cousins, he's the guy that's going to be able to come in and maximize the playmakers on the offensive side. And maybe some of those top 10 picks finally get the opportunity to look like top 10 picks. I don't think that it's their fault that they haven't.
they're in a good spot to have an expensive quarterback right now. I think that's something that people looked at with the Vikings for a long time and thought, man, they're paying a lot to their quarterback. How do they ever get any other players? As though there aren't, $200 million other dollars on the cap and a whole draft.
Right.
With the Falcons, because they have these guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts that still have a little bit of rookie contract left and 5th-year option, franchise tag control and all that. They've got team control over this like kind of core of skill players for a long time. And what they were missing primarily last year, the thing that kept them out of the playoffs was quarterback play.
Yep.
So even just getting semi-serious quarterback play, which even the biggest Kirk Cousins detractor will at least admit that, will be a boon for the Falcons. But I think that's the big difference between where they are and where the Vikings are. The Falcons were the Falcons are ready to try to strike while the iron is hot, while they've got all of these young players that they should supposedly feel pretty good about doing something. And we just kind of have to hope Arthur Smith wasn't right about Johnny Smith, which if you ask Falcons fans, they probably feel pretty good about that right now. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
But with the Vikings, they don't have anything locked up at all. They've got their last couple of draft classes, which have been, we'll go with hit or miss. I mean, they got guys like Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson under contract for a while.
Sure.
But if you just go to 2026, 2 years from now, 2026, they have 3 players under contract that aren't on a rookie deal. 3. And one of them they signed today.
Right. Yes.
Or I think it actually might be 4 now because of Blake Cashman. But that's not a core that's ready to like go forth with the last few years of a decent quarterback. And they don't, whatever the Vikings build is for the next few years, it's not yet a realized thought. The Falcons are a realized thought minus a quarterback. So it makes a lot of sense to me that they would be more willing. Now, here's the thing. Still don't really think he's that guy. Never did think he's that guy. You can listen to Locked On Vikings for more about that. But if he is that guy, we're going to find out in Atlanta way more than we would have found out in Minnesota.
Yeah. At least he'll have the weapons around him in this situation. And then the other thing too is like you sign a quarterback to a 4-year deal, you're probably looking at 2 or 3 years of actual contract time. And in this case, it's at least 2 years because the first 2 years are completely guaranteed on this deal. So, they could still draft a quarterback. They could still draft a quarterback next year. They could continue to play the quarterback game and continue to swing and miss, but at least they'll have a serviceable quarterback to get it all done. And hey, over in the NFC South, we now have 3 Kirk Cousinses in the same division. And a potential 4th, depending upon who Bryce Young turns out to be. But you've got dangerous
Kirk. It could be short Kirk.
That's right. Yeah, he could be short Kirk. You've got Kirk. You've got dangerous Kirk. That's Baker. And then you've got Guyliner Kirk in Derek Carr. So
Kirk.
It's all great. It's all working well. All right, coming up next, we're going to take a look at the move that should have happened a year and a half ago. It's finally happened, and we all get to laugh at the Panthers because they took too long. We got that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On NFL.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And what a beautiful, beautiful time of year to be FanDuel because it's bracket season. And whether or not your bracket survives past the first round, you can still get in on the action by betting on any singular NCAA basketball games, whether it's a big upset or something easy like the 1 seed. How about this? New customers get $200 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. If you just go to FanDuel.com/locked on and lay down anything, a point spread, a money line, whatever it is, just go take South Carolina women's versus whatever 16 seed and grab your $200 in bonus bets. That's assuming that nothing completely insane happens. That is the promo that you can get at FanDuel.com/locked on, and you can bet on college hoops all the way until they cut down the nets.
All right, y'all, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On NFL. We appreciate you very much for being here. Brian Burns is now a New York Giant, but it's not the trade that happened. It's a trade that could have happened that is giving us everything we need to know about the Carolina Panthers and this move. And it's safe to say the Carolina Panthers should be and are in shambles. We appreciate you very much for being here and making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day. Don't forget to go and check out Locked On Sports today as well, the 24/7 national sports stream on YouTube, the first of its kind. It's a great way to stay up to date with all of the news that's happening around the NFL free agent period from the local experts who actually know what's going on within their market. So go and check it out today, Locked On Sports today on YouTube. Luke, this is a trade for the Carolina Panthers. They send Brian Burns to the New York Giants, and they get in return a 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick. The Giants give Brian Burns a big old $150 million contract that he absolutely deserves, but none of those numbers are the ones that feel like matter, because almost a year and a half ago, the Carolina Panthers said no to the Los Angeles Rams, who were going to trade for Brian Burns and send 2 first-round picks their way, the less need school of F them picks. And the Carolina Panthers said no. And now here they are, having traded away a whole Brian Burns for a wide receiver. Was that the Stephon Diggs trade? 2nd and a 5th? Is that what that was?
2nd and a 5th? No, Diggs got way more.
Diggs got way more.
A first that turned into Justin Jefferson and like a bunch of day 3 picks.
Yeah, there was a wide receiver that was moved for a 2nd and a 5th, and that like set the market.
You're thinking of the DeAndre Hopkins, which happened.
The DeAndre Hopkins, yes, thank you. The DeAndre Hopkins.
That is the classic. We definitely didn't get enough for this extraordinarily disgruntled player trade.
That really
Carolina,
is. That is the mark of it for sure.
Carolina, I need you to look at me, okay? I need you, or if you're just listening to this, I need you to listen up, okay? And we need to have a heart to heart, okay? Hey, Carolina Panthers, I do not respect you. You have not earned the respect of this particular podcaster. And I'm a podcaster. If I'm not respecting you, you got a problem.
Yikes.
All right?
Yikes.
What's the goal? What's the plan? Panthers? Are you tanking more? You're already the worst team in the league. Nobody's worse than you. You already suck the most. I get it. You gave away your first overall pick. Maybe you're tilted about that. But like, at what point do Carolina Panthers fans get to expect you to care about them?
Yeah.
Like, what are you just going to do? Sit there and hibernate until everyone gets fired? What is the plan? What is this money for? What are these draft picks for? If you were going to stay and make Brian Burns part of the rebuild, that makes sense. He was the right age. The thing about these players is unless they're, in their 30s, they can be part of your rebuild. He would have been like 29 by the time you were finished with your rebuild and ready to start contending again. That's fine. But if you're going to get rid of him and trade him for draft picks and save the money, who is the money for? Start building. You already tore it down. Do the build. It's not even rebuilding anymore. There's nothing left. Build. Do something, Panthers. Please be an NFL team. There's 31 right now. Get out of here.
Do you think the Carolina Panthers or the Arizona Cardinals are in worse shape?
Panthers by a mile.
By a mile. This
the
is
Cardinals,
crazy.
They have their 4th overall pick, and they're going to be very excited about that, and they maybe can continue with their rebuild. But they have a commitment made to a quarterback that they like, and whether you agree with Kyler with that on Kyler Murray or not, right? That's a subjective matter. Yeah. At least I can see the vision. I can tell what they're going for here. With the Panthers, it just feels like this ever-present idea that paying for talent is bad, because what if you got other talent later with that money? Eventually somebody has to play for the Carolina freaking Panthers.
Yeah.
Please.
And you know what else? You know what else tells me too that they know that they're not ready? It was the 6-year deal for Dave Canales to come in as their head coach. So you're hiring a first-time head coach on a 6-year deal. And usually when we see a veteran head coach get hired for a 6-year deal, we go, oh, okay, they're buckling down. They know that it's going to be a long rebuild. They want to give it up. But you don't oftentimes do that with a first-time NFL head coach, right? Like there's a very specific, that screams something very specific there. And so they gave up all their draft picks to get Bryce Young. Now they're trying to fix Bryce Young. They get a 2nd and a 5th back for Brian Burns when they could have had 2 firsts. They could have been in a very different situation here. A very, very different situation. Yeah. The Carolina Panthers fans would have been a lot more excited about, and that Julian Council over at Locked On Panthers would be far less angry about on his show.
Oh, he's got a lot to be angry about. I would respect, because
they also move on from Frankie Louvu today on Monday as well. So they lose both of their guys. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
I mean, yeah, they're losing. I mean, what talent is left? It's gonna be like Bryce Young and an offense that sucks. Like, what do you expect him to be? He already wasn't that for you last year. But like, I would respect it if the Carolina Panthers said no to your two first-round picks. This is our guy. We're going to extend him. But to say no to the first 2 round picks and then no to extending him, who do you think you are?
I have 2 questions. The first one, how dare you? How dare you? Yeah, man, it's insane. And then Brian Burns goes and then immediately gets the new deal, 5-year deal, $150 max, 87.5 guaranteed. That's per Ian Rappaport. That's with Athletes First, getting that deal done. And so he just lands with the team that's got, Kayvon Thibodeau. It's got these that's trying to build this defense, all this stuff. And he just gets the deal immediately gets the deal. And so like if you're Brian Burns in that situation, you're like, dang, why couldn't the team that drafted me and that I performed for and that I produced for, like, why they turned down the 2 first-round picks? Why couldn't they get it done? Like, yeah, this really is 2nd and 5th is 100% the mark of a disgruntled player being moved across the end.
That's everybody knows that dude doesn't want to play for you anymore. And hey, we're not giving you 2 first-round picks because we know that you're probably going to end up releasing him if we all play hardball. Yeah, which is what would have happened. Yeah. I just don't understand what the Panthers think that they are building. I do not see the vision. The vision can't just be a big pile of assets. You don't build a team in a year. Look at the Bears. They had a big pile of assets 2 years ago now, and they're still not quite as active in free agency as everyone expected. Mm-hmm. It takes time to build a roster. Whether you have a lot of assets or not, it takes time to draft those players, to develop them. You need time to do that. And the more you just sit and let money and capital, be it draft picks or whatever, burn holes in your pocket, the more you delay that building process and that development process. This isn't Madden. You don't just get to go spend a bunch of money and build a team and hope your OVR goes up. Yeah. Those are people that need to learn how to play and work together. And you're just sitting there. It's to me, it reads as scared to compete. So Carolina Panthers, I declare that you are scared to compete. I do not respect you.
Next time David Tepper takes the podium, make sure you yell out, "Are you afraid to compete?
Are you afraid to compete?"
Here's what I like about this for the New York Giants, just to make sure we hit this angle on it too. They held on to their first round pick, right? Like they go out there, they get an elite pass rusher, better than anything that they would have drafted in the 1st, 2nd, or 5th rounds of any NFL draft.
For the Giants.
And, oh my goodness. Like this is runaway for them. This is awesome. And so now you hold on to your 6th overall selection in the NFL draft. And so if you want to try to readdress quarterback still, you can. And you've got the pass rusher on the other side. You're building an offensive line. They went out and signed another offensive lineman as well, Equibanum from Las Vegas and everything. So now they're starting to shore up the offensive line. They got the defensive line taken care of. They can really go in at quarterback here if they want to and feel really good about it, because then they would have the quarterback, they'd have the quarterback protection, and they would have the guy that makes life hard for the quarterback on the opposite side of the field. And you hit your trifecta there. And then, you can add pass catchers and all that, either through free agency or through the draft, and be pretty good there. Like this is pretty solid for the New York Giants. Sans the loss of Saquon Barkley, things seem to be going well for them. And who knows, maybe that goes well for them too.
And for as hard as I've gone at the Panthers here over this sort of refusal to try, I think I have to give that same respect to the Giants, who I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. Yeah. They disagree with me. I'm at peace. Okay, sure. That's fair. You're an NFL team. Fair enough.
I don't know if they disagree with you, dude. I think we'll learn that. Well, in the draft, true. But I don't know yet.
I guess we will. We will learn after the draft. Yeah. But they're trying to go from one chapter to the next, and they're not just trying to like hide away in a world where nobody has to have any expectations for them. They let Saquon Barkley go. They made that decision, and they are trying to transition to something. But again, let's say, the Giants really commit to a rebuild. How long do you think it would be before you can expect the Giants to be competitive again?
Oh, gosh.
2 years?
3 years.
2 years? Then they'll have Brian Burns on that team. Yep. That seems really good, right?
Yeah.
And to get out of that without spending a 1st round pick, especially, that 6th overall pick, that probably, especially if you're trying to move on from Daniel Jones, that's the most important asset you have right now. To me, I see that Joe Schoen has a vision. Like I can tell he's got some kind of something he's trying to execute here, and making those decisions within that. We can agree, we can disagree, we can do whatever. With the Panthers, it just seems aimless. It's wandering. And I also have to say, for the Giants specifically, it is cosmically required that they have an insane defensive line. They just have to.
Right. Yeah. There's no way work around that or anything. That's
Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. Nightmare.
Outstanding. Just a nightmare. Going to be so much fun to watch. All right, Coda Dex. We're going to take a look at our yike and our like, leading off with what the heck is going to happen with Justin Fields. We got that coming up for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On NFL, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is online therapy made easy. And if you are, say, a Panthers fan or otherwise are in need of somebody to just talk it out with, BetterHelp can help you get hooked up with somebody that is right for you and your specific needs. Therapy is a different experience for everybody, and it has to be a different experience for everybody to be actually effective. So don't let yourself fall for some cookie cutter thing that doesn't work for you and then think therapy isn't right for you. Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
All right, y'all, wrapping up today's episode of Locked On NFL with our yike and our like. Don't forget, we are your team every day here on Locked On NFL, so make sure you come back tomorrow for James and Chris. We're going to keep you up to date with all the rest of the fantastic moves happening around the league here as free agency technically isn't actually open yet, but is getting there, right? Like, it's legal tampering.
It's open. Let's just move. We can dispense with the pretense. Guys are signing.
Let's just move the league here. Like, let's stop with this, or don't let anybody, like, just let them talk on a Monday. No, it's fine.
So here's the fun thing. I could even make this my like. I do think it's fun that there's 48 hours where everyone just gets to shake hands, but nobody gets to put pen to paper. Yeah. Because then you can get plot twists like with Will Lutz.
Yes.
You
get the Will Lutz,
agreed to terms
Anthony
with the
Barr.
Jaguars. The Anthony Barr it was fun to be on the right side of that. The Larry Ogunjobi thing that happened to the Bears. Yep. It's drama and that's fun. So I'm all right with it. But
it's probably
what I think is we just have to take the stigma away from tampering.
Yeah.
Everyone tampers. These guys have been negotiating since the combine. Wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The legal tampering period started a month ago. Yeah. This is just the negotiating.
The illegal tampering period and the legal tampering period, both equally acceptable.
Things. Yes, both equally acceptable. We're all fine here. All right, so we get to our yike and our like here every week. Luke and I pick something we like, something we didn't like from the week. We're doing a free agency edition here. Luke, your yike for the week will lead us off.
Hey Bears, what happened? Here's the thing. Bears, we got a heart to heart, right? Let's sit down at the campfire. What happened here? They had a quarterback. If you go back to this time last year, the Bears were the belle of the ball because they had lots of cap space and a young quarterback that everybody was really excited about. And they're finally going to build a team. And they turned their first overall pick into DJ Moore and Darnell Wright. One of those two works out pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then Justin Fields turns out to still be like kind of hot, stinky booty. Now you can't get rid of him. There's no market for him. And like things have worked out so dreadfully bad for the Bears. Like it's not all their fault. Russell Wilson goes to the Steelers. Baker Mayfield doesn't leave. The Bucs have this Baker Mayfield resurgence. Otherwise they maybe would have been the team in the Fields race for you. If a team like the Saints or the Falcons had won like 2 more games and won the division instead, right? And the Panthers or the Bucs didn't even make the playoffs. Maybe they aren't signing a 3-year deal for Baker Mayfield. And maybe they're the team that you're trading Justin Fields away to. But as it stands right now, there's kind of nowhere to go. Gardner Minshew goes to the Raiders, and that kind of feels like what they're doing instead of Fields is they probably keep their eyes on a draft quarterback somewhere. What are we doing with this guy now? Is he just going to back up Caleb Williams? Is that what we got?
I think
then
so.
I mean, you can get a 5th for him next year.
A 2nd and a 5th.
Second and a 5th. I mean, goodness gracious. He was supposed to be the truth. What happened?
Yeah. It's wild, man. It's crazy, like how quickly that market dried up, right? Like he was supposed to be on the move. Russ goes to Pittsburgh. You get Kirk in Atlanta, like you mentioned. The other stuff like never came to light. And so where does he end up? I mean, I guess New England still technically could be a spot, but
I could see New England.
You're running out of potential landing spots though at this point. No matter,
you know what I could sneaky see.
Sneaky see. Oh, tell me what you sneaky see.
New York Giants.
Oh, Luke.
Right? Luke. Compete with Daniel Jones, just a couple of guys that like have some starting experience and call that a competition you feel okay about. You're not paying out the wazoo.
Yeah. Only problem, they already traded a second and a fifth. So they can't do the discredit player trade.
I don't think they need either of those, to be
Yeah,
honest.
send next year's fifth.
The second was never going to be part of that phone call. We're well past that. And the Bears definitely approached this offseason assuming that there would be this market for Justin Fields and all of his hashtag potential. And they let the cat out of the bag at the combine that they were going to be in on Caleb Williams. Everybody knows that they are just going to draft Caleb Williams.
Everybody
knows. You get that lack of leverage. And to me, that's Ryan Poles just not quite understanding the market that he is in. And there have been a couple of times in this Ryan Poles Bears tenure where he's just pissed away value, just not really understanding how to navigate the market that he's in.
Now I don't want to get you too excited here, Luke, but what if the lack of trade market psychs the Bears into not going for Caleb Williams, trading out of one and just rolling with Justin Fields?
To be honest, I kind of think there's a non-zero chance that's better for them.
Oh, it's definitely a non-zero chance.
Non-zero chance it's better. I mean, look, there's no such thing as a sure thing in the draft.
Right.
I've sort of planted my flag on Caleb Williams that I don't think that he's not the one that was promised that he's been made out to be. He's a good prospect and all that. But I'm not as crazy about it as everybody else.
Everybody's going nuts about. Yeah.
I don't think that's really obscene. So trade down with the Giants, right? Let the Giants trade up, they take Caleb Williams. You trade down, you take Rome Odunze, you get a bunch of extra draft capital. You continue to build around this guy that you've put some time and resources into developing, or you could go start over with a guy that comes out of college with like the same flaws.
Yeah. Yeah. One way or another, you're going to effectively end up with the same quarterback at this point, unless you go with Caleb Williams. All right, let me jump in here with my yike. My yike, I'll go quick with these. My yike right now is the Miami Dolphins losing both Christian Wilkins as well as Robert Hunt. They've moved, there was the whole Xavier Howard move. They've, had to kind of, they are just one of those teams that has just been shedding talent this entire offseason so far, which really stinks because they look like they could be a promising team. This is the same team that hung 70 points on a team last year. And now all of a sudden they're just shedding talent. And there's a little bit of salary cap stuff with that. Hello, you want to know what actual cap hell looks like? Dial up Miami. It's not great. It's not great. So that's my.
Who, by the way, reset
that
their cap.
Barber.
Who reset their cap in 2020? By the way.
Yes.
That's 5 years into the Saints doing their restructure thing, and the Dolphins have already found themselves in a worse spot.
The Saints have been at it for like 3 times as long as the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are in a worse spot than the Saints are. I think. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see. We'll see. One of those teams had a winning record last year. Well, I guess they both had a winning record. Anyway, all right. What's your like?
My like goes to Saquon Barkley himself, finding a new opportunity, getting himself paid by the Eagles. I mean, look, getting paid the way running backs get paid now is like 12 and change per year. Mm-hmm. But what I really like about it is it seems like things got kind of personal with him and the Giants. And the Giants kind of refusal to really buy into him and commit to him as the guy that we're building around, which is kind of what I think everybody thought he was in New York. Mm-hmm. Now, again, all right, Giants, you're doing a new thing, whatever. I respect it, but Saquon Barkley is going to be mad about that. So why don't you go to a division rival? I love it. Oh, the 120-yard game he's going to have against the Giants is going to be so good.
Yeah. It reminds me, it reminds me of like football in the not the good old days, but like football, like back in the day, like in the younger days, to where like team players always left teams and went to rival teams.
That
used to happen all the time. And we loved it. Oh, did we love it? Like Romanowski, you know what I mean? Like, let's go. Like I've
got no dog in this fight. I'm just here for the blood.
I'm here for the blood. I love it. My like is that I love the trade of Carlton Davis from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Detroit Lions. That's a fantastic move by Detroit. One of the things that they have needed is that solid cornerback play that was always felt like the one place where they were kind of missing, which was always kind of strange because you had, Brian Branch obviously came on strong his rookie year for sure. But they went through the Jeff Okudas of the world, all that kind of stuff. But this trade for Carlton Davis, I think that's such a perfect landing spot for him, working with a guy like Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator there, who's a secondary focused guy. I think that's going to be a fantastic move for him. And that's going to be the one thing, like if they got the offense right over in Detroit, then getting the defense right has to be the big focus here now. And I love the landing spot there for Carlton Davis.
Yeah, they now get to be in that mode where they were, in the doghouse. The Panthers are now in. The Panthers have replaced them as the team that I want to be relegated. But now they get to be in this world where, okay, you look at a mostly complete roster and you're just identifying where you need to juice it up. Yeah. And that's what you get to put your draft capital toward all the time. And that sometimes means not getting rookies and trading for veterans. Yep. It gets to be a brand new world for the Lions in that way. And they can, take a shot at sustaining this window and making it so it's not like, the nightmare of Lions fans is when Dan Campbell said after that NFC Championship game, this might be our only chance. Yeah. This is how you make it so that's not so, is you've got to just keep this thing afloat now for as long as possible, no matter what it does to your long and distant future.
Yep. And the Lions traded away just their 3rd round pick. They got Carlton Davis, a 6th round pick in 2024 and a 6th round pick in 2025, because the NFL just loves loose change day 3 draft picks and trades for whatever reason. But really, really good stuff.
I think one of the most efficient things you can do is a day 3 pick for a year of a good player versus 4 years of a player who might not even be making your team by year 3.
Completely agreed. Especially in this year's draft too. Like, this is a good one to move some of those late day 3 picks, or those day 3 picks. All right, y'all. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Locked On NFL. Luke Braun at Luke Braun NFL, myself, Ross Jackson at Ross Jackson Nola. We thank you very much for being here with us and for being every day or here on the show. For your second listen today, make sure you go find your favorite NFL team and check out their Locked On podcast. We got every single team covered, plus the NFL draft, NFL scouting, Peacock and Williamson, fantasy football, dynasty football, Locked On NFL. We got it all here for you. And then if you're looking for something quick and easy to listen to as well that makes football a lot of fun, Renner Ranks, a list. You got to love it. And Mike Renner is awesome at it. And it's like his season right now in the offseason. Yeah. Make sure you go check him out as well. We appreciate you very much for being here with us, and we'll see you here again soon for another episode of Locked On NFL here as a part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.